I am a mother of two. My husband abandoned me after I was raped. He married another woman and he's no more supporting me. On 6 Nihasi, the Tigray People's Liberation Front took over our town, Nifas Mucha, in northern Ethiopia, where I own a bar. 3 soldiers came to my house that evening. They forced me to open the door and started to drink the homemade liquor, Araki. Then one of them raped me after taking me to the bedroom while the others were drinking their liquor. They also took the shiro and berber from my house. They also drank the liquor by force. I was all alone by then. They didn't hit me, but they were insulting me. Who are you to deny me sex?
Bemnet is one of hundreds of survivors of sexual violence and rape in this conflict, which broke out in northern Ethiopia on the 3rd of November 2020, after years of political tensions between the Ethiopian federal government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, a party that led the Tigray region. As the Tigrayan forces took control of large parts of Tigray from the Ethiopian federal forces in July 2021, the conflict escalated and spread to other regions, such as the Amhara region in the north and the Afar region in the northeast. New parties joined in as well. The Ethiopian forces were now supported by the Eritrean Defense Forces and informal militias from the Amhara and Afar regions. In April 2022, a humanitarian truce was declared and the Tigrayan forces withdrew from parts of the Afar region. But the pause didn't last long. On the 25th of August, the fighting reignited and continued to rage until the 2nd of November, when peace agreement was signed between the Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan forces. As usual, civilians are footing the bill. In Tigray, Afar and Amhara regions, 2.5 million people have been displaced, while more than 13 million people across the 3 regions, Tigray, Amhara, and Afar, are now in dire need for food aid due to the conflict and drought, in what the United Nations calls the worst famine situation in 40 years. This humanitarian crisis is shattering the lives of people in the affected regions, notably survivors of sexual violence, who have been unable to receive the necessary post-rape care and support, in addition to failing to have their basic needs met.
I didn't have any medical checkup after I was raped. I was sick for a long time since there was no clean water in the Nifas Mucha. I had acute bloody diarrhea for more than 6 days. I was almost to die. The neighbors contributed 10 Ethiopian birr each to buy me medicine. The pharmacist in the town said I could have died. I bought the medicine for 150. The diarrhea stopped after I took the medicine.
Bemnet found solidarity and support among her town people, but many other survivors continue to struggle, sometimes in silence and isolation, due to phone and internet disconnection, restrictions on media access, and no access for international human rights groups to Tigray. Their violations and abuses have been taking place in an information blackout. Now, as we commemorate the 2nd year anniversary of the conflict, we must keep talking about the devastating consequences on lives and human rights, lest the world forgets survivors of possible crimes against humanity like Bemnet.
During this ongoing conflict, Amnesty International and other human rights organizations have documented gross human rights violations and abuses in Ethiopia that amount to war crimes and possible crimes against humanity. In November 2020, the world witnessed 2 heinous crimes, the first at Maikadra, committed by Tigrayan militias and residents, which is the first publicly reported large-scale massacre, and the second at Aksum city, just over 2 weeks later, by Eritrean soldiers, in which hundreds of people were executed. We have also documented horrific patterns of sexual violence in other places in Amhara, Afar, and Tigray.
It was the 5th of November 2020. They told us that we were being transferred from our village Badme to the desert. They were both Eritrean and Ethiopian soldiers. We were around 30 women. They raped us and starved us. We were too many, maybe 5 or 6. They raped us in rounds after taking us to the Eritrean land, Gashbarke area. All of us were raped. We stayed there for 1 month and 10 days. Then they brought us back to Padme. When they returned, I came immediately to Shire after that, but I didn't tell anyone about what happened to me. I didn't go to the hospital. I'm not pregnant, and I don't have money to go to the hospital. Now I eat at people's homes, and we beg from Shire people. I'm living with the displaced people in a camp.
So Sina and Bemnet were raped by opposite sides of the conflict, but their struggle to seek post-rape care and support is very similar. In fact, all warring parties have been involved in war crimes and possible crimes against humanity. Amnesty International has documented mass killings and sexual violence committed by Tigrayan forces in Amhara regions, specifically in the towns of Chena, Kobo, and Nifas Mucha, such as the story of Bemnet. On the other side, we and others have collected overwhelming evidence that Ethiopian and Eritrean soldiers and their allies are responsible for a pattern of rape and other forms of sexual violence in Tigray. Beatings, death threats, and ethnic slurs are all part of this pattern as well. Some of the victims were held in captivity by the perpetrators for days or weeks in circumstances constituting sexual slavery. Others were raped in front of their children and other family members. As for the Amhara forces who control Western Tigray, they had conducted a campaign of ethnic cleansing against Tigrayan residents of the area with the support and complicity of Ethiopian and Eritrean forces. Hundreds of thousands of Tigrayans were forcibly removed from Western Tigray after the Amhara forces took control of the area shortly after the conflict began in 2020. The testimonies we gathered from survivors of sexual violence are harrowing, yet they are a wake-up call for the world's governments to act. Survivors across all regions urgently need post-rape care and comprehensive support.
I didn't get much support. I only received sanitary packages and money from a women's association. I also received medical service at the beginning, but that has not continued. I have pain and secretions in my womb. I told them many times that I have pain, and they didn't provide me with any further treatment. Now I have given up. I need money so that I can afford better medical treatment far away. I also want support to go to school far away from Chena because of the stigmatization I'm facing here.
While some survivors spoke of revenge, many demand justice. They are trying to rebuild their lives with very minimal resources, but they also told us how seeing perpetrators on all sides enjoy impunity and continuing their crimes unabated infuriates them and keeps their wounds open. Justice is not a luxury. If atrocities are to stop, it is a must. However, it remains difficult to foresee the Ethiopian and Eritrean governments, as well as Tigrayan forces, cooperating in any investigation and prosecution of high-ranking officials who might be implicated in war crimes and possible crimes against humanity. To fill this gap, the international community must rise up to the expectations of all survivors of all crimes under international law being committed by all parties in northern Ethiopia by providing them with solidarity, comprehensive support, and opportunities for justice that they demand.
I want them, the people who subjected me to sexual violence, to be prosecuted and sentenced in court. I am willing to testify in court if there's a trial.